Hi, folks. You were Tacitus today. Your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issue of the Antifa anarchists and rioters and so on being arrested, not only for their assaulting police, for example, or riotous behaviour, but also being arrested and charged under the Terrorism Act. So Antifa and all that have been declared a terrorist organisation. So federal prosecutors are being directed to bring additional charges to these people, given they're arrested initially on causing an affray or something, and to say, hey, you're part of a terrorist organisation, you're going to be additionally charged with that. Now, just today or yesterday, the 5 Antifa members, who, as far as I can tell, are all white, 3 men and 2 women, 5 Antifa members have been charged under the Terrorism Act, and they have pled guilty. So there isn't going to be a trial or anything. They've just pled guilty. That surprised me. I thought they would go for a trial and just hope for a sympathetic judge or something like that. Now, bear in mind that they're getting free. All their legal fees and so on are being paid. Any fines they get, as I understand it, at least, will be paid by the anarchist funding NGOs and so on. And I wish the Department of Justice in the US would go after those people with the same vigor that the Biden folks went after anybody they didn't like or disapproved of. But when the Biden DOJ was in action, you didn't even have to break the law. They'd invent a law, pretend you broke a law. They'd fabricate evidence. They'd do anything to come after you. But it won't be, I wouldn't think, anywhere near as difficult to anyone funding Antifa or providing resources or material support should be investigated fully. Nonetheless, coming back to these five people, now they've pled guilty again, which took me a little bit by surprise. So there's a tactical reason for that. I'm sure their free, paid for legal counsel will be advising him to do that. Now, pleading guilty when you sort of don't have to, that's typically where there's a threat of process, where the threat, okay, well, we'll come after you and you may win the case in the end, but the process will ruin you. Will financially ruin you, will tear you to pieces. So even though you may win in the end, or he may not get you in the end, your life will be fucked and screwed. So whereas if you roll over and take a guilty plea, we'll put you away for a couple of years or so. Good behavior, you'll be out in a year and everybody's happy. We get the scalp and your life isn't ruined. You'll still have enough of your life left to be able to pick up the pieces. But if you defy us, if you dare defy us, us ideological, fanatical warriors, then we will crush you and do everything we can to crush you. Now, that's the process. The threat of process is a tactic that's used by a lot of, I've been involved in, as being a CEO of a divisional CEO of a multinational company. I've been involved in where if another business or another company wants to exert pressure on you, but typically to gain favorable trading terms and advantages, they make these threats and then they signal that they're going to come after you personally. They'll say, look, we're going to say that you broke some obscure commercial law. We're going to say that. Now, we know we're not going to be able to prove it. We know that in the end you'll win. But it's not nice to be, being chased down the streets by summons servers, have summons servers coming around every couple of days into the middle of your office and screaming out in a loud voice, I've got a summons for Billy Bob Smith. Billy Bob Smith summons to come to court to face a judge, And this is all very dramatic stuff. And, everyone's sort of, oh, fuck, what have you done, Billy Bob? All this sort of thing. So these are tactics that are used. So the process and the cost. Now, in the case of the business legal stash, the company's paying the legal fees. It's not, not coming out of someone's pocket or not my pocket in that case. But these are the things that are done, and the the gamesmanship, if I can call it that, of legal thing. They can threaten you with the process, knowing that the legal process will bankrupt you. This is an individual case, not a business one. Knowing that the legal case will bankrupt you, the stress and the pressure of being pursued, and authorities coming around all the time, summons servers, bailiffs chasing you up and down the street, and coming to your replacement employment, or coming to where you live, in the street, and standing out the front of your house and shouting in a loud voice, I have a summons for Billy Bob Smith. Your neighbours hear it, everybody hear it. It's all part of the overall tactics of harassment and so on. Now, why did these guys plead guilty? Well, they must have been advised to do it. None of them look like legal geniuses. So they're advised to do it. Now, what will the sentencing be? So, okay, they're guilty. They've pled guilty. That's it. The judge asks them, well, is there any reason why you shouldn't go to prison? And they all come out with bullshit. Yeah, I suffer bipolar disorder. Yeah, I suffer depression. Yeah, I suffer this. And so they've all come out with this bullshit stuff. I don't know if they're required to prove that. Have they got a doctor that has examined them and proved that this is the condition they have? If you have bipolar disorder, what medication are you on? And going through the nailing it down tight. And but there's a somewhat of a chance that we can't put you in prison, Jimmy Jack. You've got you've got bipolar disorder. You've got special medication. We can't put you in prison. So we'll give you a community service and a slap on the wrist. So we don't know that the sentencing will result in a prison term. I'm sure if they were people that had been in Washington on January 6th, there'd be no doubt about it. You're going down, motherfucker, and solitary confinement for you, and so on. We're going to ruin you. We're going to fuck your life up completely. There'd be a very different view taken. But we don't know what's going to happen here. And until the sentencing is done, we're not sure whether there actually is going to be a punishment. So they pled guilty. So what? Big deal. It's significant in a I don't know, a paperwork sense to be able to say, well, these are the first people who've been found, or in this case, were pleading guilty, found guilty under the this Antifa terrorism stuff. But what will be the sentencing? Now, I've noticed that the Antifa people that have been arrested in the past and have been charged, whether they've pled or they've been found guilty in a court case, they're not getting long sentences. Unless they're on videotape committing, premeditated murder. Even then, the sentences seem, in my view, rather light. They're not getting much in the way of sentencing. And anyone who's advocating for the globalist positions on things like climate change and whatever, they're able to, for the most part, they're able to avoid prison, get a small fine, bit of community service. The ones that do get prison, there was one got I think 6 months prison, but the reality was that she claimed she was suffering some depression thing, and managed to get a prison doctor to say, well, she can't stay overnight. So she only was in the prison during the days. Then she was also given the weekends off, so she didn't have to go to prison. Then she was deemed as having given excellent behaviour. So the 6 month sentence ended up with 5 months of nighttime release and no weekends. Then the last month was weekends only. But then she was given half the sentence. It was cut in half for so-called good behaviour. So she did soft time, 3 months of soft time. Now, I don't think anybody would want to go to prison, but it could have been made a very unpleasant experience. You're not going anywhere. You're staying here for the whole 24/7. And by the way, you get the fuck into that kitchen and start washing those dishes. And it could have been made an unpleasant experience. But instead, she got light time, and there's and she's out and about and is again doing more placard waving and activism. So it was zero deterrent effect. Now, on top of that, she had no expenses to meet. The fine that she got, which was a bullshit fine, by the way. All the expenses, her travel, because she didn't live anywhere near the court house. So her travel to the city to attend the thing, even her hotel bills and meals were all paid for by an NGO. So she's not out of pocket even one thin dime. And so really the idea is there must be penalties that act as a deterrent. And the process isn't for these Antifa people. Someone else is picking up the all the lawyers and that's all taken care of. They don't have to worry or think about that or go through the stress of organising that. That's all taken care of by people who do that every day for a living. So to them, it's just another day at the office. But to the anarchists, everything's being taken care of. So there's no costs. Any fines will be paid and so on. So the process isn't a punishment for them. So the only punishment they can get is by spending time in prison. That's the only punishment they can be given. And certainly the ones that I've seen, they're getting off very, very lightly. Now, I don't think any of these people would want to spend time. Maybe some of them already have. I don't know. Though some of them look like desperados, for goodness sakes. But the penalty must act as a deterrent here, not only for them to not do it again, but for others looking at it, shit, I don't want to go to prison for a year. And I don't think I'll do this demonstrating. I will give you a few more dollars, say the NGO. Nah, not interested in the money. I just don't want to go the fuck to prison. That was something I noticed with business people. They were prepared to be very creative in how they interpreted the law, but there was a line they drew. They would say, well, I'm prepared to do this and this, but I don't want to go to prison. And that's something. Now they're in a different situation. They got good jobs and good pay. They've got families, children in private schools. The embarrassment of it all will be too much. So they want to avoid that. These Antifa people, I don't think social embarrassment would work on them. So that isn't going to be an issue. So again, the cost, the fine, the process, the only deterrent left for these people is the prison sentence itself. And in order to again act as a deterrent for them and others, the prison sentence needs to reflect that. If they get a soft, 100 hours community service and a $500 fine or something, the fine will be taken care of. The community service will probably be for an NGO, and they won't even have to do that. The NGO people will sign off on them having attended when really they haven't. So only a prison term, only detention is going to act as a deterrent. So it'd be interesting to see if that in fact happens. You've been attached to us today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.